Hey everybody, George Palayo. Today I want to talk about 3 lies that most of us believe about ourselves. There's an article from All Pro Dad, which is a nonprofit Tony Dungy started for fathers. There's a lot of articles on how to be a better husband, how to be a better father. There's articles that they do for moms. So I highly recommend go to the website, All Pro Dad, sign up for the newsletter. I read it every single day. And if I miss it, I'll catch up on yesterday's because it's truly helped me be a better husband, better father. And I'm just so grateful for people that, like a Tony Dungy, who's going out there and creating that content as a former coach and a husband and a father. It's so valuable. One of the articles that came out said there's 3 lies that most of us believe. Lie number 1, you are the things you've done. Lie number 2, you are the things you have. Lie number 3, you are what other people say about you. And I want to talk about those because there are times where I've made a mistake in my life and I feel like a complete failure. And oftentimes when we wake up, we literally look at all the things that we've done wrong in our life. We put that shackle on and we drag this ball and chain for the rest of our life. And we remind ourselves of all the mistakes. We're very unforgiving with ourselves. At least I am with me. And that was a great reminder that you are not your mistakes. And I remember going through a marriage that led to divorce. And it was something that really affected me because you make a promise to God. Coming from a family where my parents have been married 40 plus years, you feel like a failure. You feel like, man, what are other people? Man, I broke my promise to God. I broke my promise to this person. You know, we couldn't make this work. What are other people going to think? What are other people going to say? Now you're a divorced person. You know, you'll fill out a survey. They'll say, hey, what are you? Well, divorced, right? It's such a failure. It's such a failure. In my eyes, it's such a failure as a person that values marriage, as a person that values commitment. And I had to go through this. In that moment, I was broken. And I'm doing this. I do not like exposing certain things like that in my personal life because I'm a very private person. But I think there's a lot of us that have failure in our life that we don't want to communicate that or share that. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. And I remember sitting with a group of men, and I was going through a men's meeting, and it was this group of these men, man's man, and they were sharing their challenges. And I said, man, this is, damn, that is deep. And there are so many of us that don't do that today. It's this culture of perfection. It's this culture of, only put out there what you want people to see. Don't talk about the things you did wrong. I screwed up a lot in my life, and I had to live with that. So you are, the things you've done. You are the mistakes you've made. You are the things you have. You are what other people say about you, right? So as I get broken through this process, I start connecting closer to God, and getting closer to God, and committing to my health again, and finding things that made me happy, and going through this process of healing myself. Now, at the same time, I'm running a business. We're hitting promotions. We're making more money than we've ever made. So I had to make sure that my responsibilities, while I'm getting better, I still had responsibilities. I take care of my mother, my father. We run an organization. We have a team. We have leaders. So I have to recoup faster. I have to play hurt. And I think that's really important because sometimes when you're going through a challenge, you forget that you have to play hurt. And that's really when you respect yourself the most, when you can show up when you don't feel like it, when you can lead when you don't feel like it. When you can get better when you don't feel like it. And that's when you have to keep your commitments. When you don't feel like it, you keep that commitment. You respect yourself more. And I had to go back and build that self-respect, that pride, man, I'm proud of who I am. And so I start connecting to God more. I start getting in better shape, and life starts to get better, and I start reading books. I start reading books on being a better husband while I'm single. I start reading books on being a better, your love life and your emotional health. And one of the books that helped was The Mastery of Love. And it talked about that these two people get into a relationship and they're half empty, and then they want this other person to fill them up when that person's half empty. So now you are trying to fill up, while you're empty, half empty, you're trying to fill up another person. And it talks about how an unhealthy person, that relationship with another unhealthy person, it becomes more challenging to you than you were by yourself as a single person. And so I started working on myself to be happy as an individual, doing things that I loved as a person, being more of myself, unwilling to change, not in a bad way, in a good way, unwilling to change who I am for other people. Hey, this is who George is. So I go on this journey and I get whole. And I think it's so important, man, to get whole as a person, to get happy as a person, to get fulfilled as a person. And then at that time, the business is growing. We have some money. Things are going well. And I start making investments with a friend into real estate. And that friend introduced me to another person who we invested over $1 million with. That money was mismanaged, different projects that were mismanaged at that time. And so I lose this money. And now we had just bought a Ferrari. We had just put down a down payment to buy a home. We were building it through a builder on a hill, beautiful hill in West Hills in California. And so we're building this home. And at that time, everything's like great. And then I find out that all this money is gone. And I had moved in with a friend because the house was going to be built a month later. Then I find out that this house, the construction's delayed. The financing is going to be more complicated. And it's not going to get done. It's going to take extra time. We got other properties. At this time, I'm spending $40,000 to $50,000 a month in just overhead on maintaining these other projects to get them to completion because I took them over. And so everything's gone. Like I'm check to check, making a lot of money, running an insurance business. Thank God for this insurance business because one of the things about life insurance in the insurance industry is there's residual income. So I got residuals coming in to cover this overhead. That's why a lot of investors have challenges because all their money's in a project. They have no more cash flow. And it was just a mess. So I'm living check to check. I'm driving a Ferrari. The house didn't get built. I'm living in a friend's house, my buddy's house, thinking everything's going to go right. And I find out that everything's gone wrong. And that night I go for a run, and the neighbor had cut his tree. I couldn't see it it was dark. I couldn't see it under the leaves. There was a piece of wood that was sharp, hits me right in the head. And I fall to the floor. I think I'm sweating, ends up being blood. I walk into the house, and I step in this dog's throw up. And that was it. I'm bleeding, I'm broke, I'm in throw up, everything that can go wrong. You're like, what else can happen? And I was broke and I was broken in that moment. And I'm so grateful for it now, but man, did it freaking hurt. Understand that your greatest moments of growth are typically connected to your greatest pain. And it's just the way it works. Your spirit's got to be, just like muscles got to be torn apart. Sometimes you got to be torn apart to grow. And so I started crying and laughing at the same time. And this was such a discovery for me. God asked me a question at that moment. God said, who are you when you have nothing? Who are you when you have nothing? And I said, man, who am I? Because I found my identity in my success. I found my identity in edification. Sometimes we're getting a lot of praise. Man, you're the guy, you're the leader. So I'm finding praise. And our numbers had gone down, so that was gone. Man, you find your identity in, man, I got a lot of savings, investments, like I'm financially secure. That was gone. I found my identity in the things that I had. You find your identity in your success. Man, I'm killing it. Well, we're not killing it now. Everything was wrong. And I said, man, who am I? And there was this question of like, what makes you valuable and who makes you valuable? And I really started processing that. Like, what do I got to do to get back? And it started with just keeping my word. If I say I'm going to do something, to do it. And I wanted to make sure that I kept my word to everybody that was involved through those projects. And we paid back every single dollar. We paid back plus interest, even though there was no money earned. It was all lost. We paid back every single dollar plus interest because I made a commitment. And you discover who you are, and you discover your character when it costs you to keep commitments. And are you willing to pay that price? Are you? And it's my last name. If I say I'm going to do something, it's my last name. And one of the things that working with Pat and Patrick Bet-David in the insurance industry, working with Pat, it's if you say you're going to do something, you do it. You keep your word. Because there was this quote that he taught me years ago. It says, "Be careful of the words that come out of your mouth, because if you say things that you don't do, eventually your spirit stops believing you." And so we keep our commitments, but I started going back to, again, what makes me valuable? Man, God makes me valuable. My spirit makes me valuable. What else makes me valuable? Caring about people makes me valuable. What else makes me valuable? Keeping makes me valuable. Keeping my word makes me valuable. What else makes me valuable? Giving my very best makes me valuable. What else makes me valuable? Improving as a person, just getting as good as I can get in all aspects of life: faith, health, family, finance, business, sales, leadership. And I'm going to give my very best, and I'm going to improve. And I recommitted. You know, there's a lot of times in life that you got to recommit to being the next version of yourself, the better version of yourself. And it's typically, if you make that recommitment when everything is broken, in those moments, those are real recommitments, because there's pain associated with that. And you're making a promise to yourself. And so I start getting better. I start getting closer to God. Worship music, man, every single day, worship music just got me through. Like, I needed God. There's certain things that I can do, and I want to give credit to God. And I was having a conversation with a great friend of mine who's an atheist, and he says, you know, I don't like the fact that a lot of people that are Christians depend on God, because they feel like God's going to do that work for them. And if they didn't believe that there was a God, they would go out there and be like, well, let me get better at this because I'm responsible for it. And I understood that argument. And I said, well, you got to look at that. There are people that give everything that they can, and they work like it's up to them, but they pray like it's up to God. They believe it's in God's hands, but they give their very best. And that was that moment where I'm giving my very best, but there was things that I couldn't do that I needed God to do for me. And when you give everything and you know, like, I can't do this anymore, man. And at that moment, you really, truly come to God with a humble heart and a real request. And you're saying, I need you to show up for me. I need you in this moment. I can't do this by myself. What a great moment to be humbled in life, that you come to God and that you put your faith in there and you find that, and you start growing and God starts showing up in your life. And so we finish all these projects. And I want to add this point to it because I think it's super important. This came, there was a moment reading The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, where he says the impediment of action is what advances action. And that was a concept from Marcus Aurelius. And so I'm saying, wow, this is the challenge. The challenge is that I have a person that I'm relying on in this moment who's not doing the job because I don't feel like I'm capable. But instead of that, why don't where's the challenge? Right here, I don't feel like I'm capable. Then let's get capable. Let's get capable. Let's improve. Let's figure this part out. And so now I'm figuring things out. I have no idea how to build homes and rehab. And there's 4 projects. So I'm running a full-time insurance business at this time. And at the same time doing this full-time real estate business. And it's so difficult to spread yourself thin. My advice to you guys is do one thing and give that every single thing that you have. Because you may think that you're capable. You may think you're super gifted. You can't have 2 wives. You can't serve 2 masters. You got to give everything to one thing. And that one thing, sometimes there's this belief system of, man, well, let me say I'm an investor here, and let me have this other business here, and let me do this. Well, if you're going against somebody that's given everything to one thing, they're going to demolish you. So my advice is make sure you give everything to one thing. And so, but that moment of reading that book and saying, man, okay, here's my moment. Like, this is the obstacle. This is what's blocking me. This is what I'm bothered by. And my limiting belief that I can't do it, right? That I don't have the experience, that I don't know this. I don't know. And it was true, by the way. I really didn't know how to do it. That limiting belief was holding me back. And I said, why are you accepting a limiting belief in your life? No, go figure it out. If another man can figure it out, if another woman can figure it out, you can figure it out. And we have to start believing that. And maybe your process is going to take longer. Maybe you need additional help. But there's nothing in this world that you can't go learn. I'm not talking about being able to jump. If you're not 7 feet tall, 6'8", 6'10", maybe you're never going to go to the play in the NBA. But that's a talent. That's something that's physical. A skill can be developed. And naturally, maybe somebody's going to be better than you in this area. But you can catch up. And that's the whole part, that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so we get through this moment and everything's done, and I keep my promise to people. Man, the pride that you get from going through failure and overcoming it. And I get closer to God. I rebuild my savings, save over $1 million again. And then through this process, I recommit to the business. Check this out. I recommit to the business. And then there's a closeout that we're doing. It's the last day of the month. And one of my guys, it's like 11:30 at night. He says, I need you to help with this appointment. And so I go help with this appointment. And what ends up happening, it's this young lady, and she ends up she's wanting to make some more money, wanting to grow as a person, wants to help her family more. And I kind of push the envelope with her. And I say, hey, you know what? You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. Worst case scenario, you're going to learn about money, learn about business, learn sales, make some money, help some family, help some people you know. You're going to get more educated. Why not do it? So she gets started. ends up coming to the office. I start doing her appointments, her trainings, and I realize, wow, this is such a great woman. She loves her family, the way she helps her nieces and nephews, the way she's supporting her brothers and her parents. Like, what a strong woman. She's also been broken, and she's rebuilt herself. And faith in God, very high. Faith in herself and commitment, very high. Faith to family, commitment to family, very high. That lady, that young lady, ends up becoming my wife. So through this process of recommitting, I end up meeting my wife. And today we have the love of my life, our little boy, Georgie. And we have our next son on the way. And I would have never met her if I didn't go through this process of recommitting, if I didn't go through this failure that forced me to level up. You know, like it's so connected, but so many times we give up, guys. We give up. Man, don't give up in this moment of pain. Don't give up when you don't feel like you can do it. Don't give up. Don't give up when you don't think you can. And sometimes you're gonna have to recreate your belief system that you can do something. And so, and then through that, man, the family comes, and then our dream house, and everything that was, I don't want to say stolen or taken, because I'm not a victim. Everything that was lost came back 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Because when you become a person that can go through challenges and you still move forward and you win in spite of the challenges, man, that's so powerful. But I wanted to bring that up. Why? Because it went from, you know, this whole story of you are the things you've done. Well, if you've ever failed in the past, that failure isn't final. You are the things you have. Well, maybe you have nothing right now, or maybe you have everything. Maybe one day you're going to lose everything, and you're going to have to go through this process, and I hope you don't. You make good decisions. That shouldn't happen. There are things that are outside of our control, but there's things that we can influence. And so it's our job to do our best. I got to take care of my health as best as I can. Work out, take vitamins, stretch, trainer, yoga, sauna, all these things. I got to take care of myself. If I do my best and cancer comes, well then, man, I gave my best. I can't blame that. It's just life. It's the way it is. And then you attack that with a positive spirit. And I've seen my mom go through that. And I'll never forget the nurse that said, I said, hey, this is a beautiful quilt here while my mom's getting chemo. And I said, who made this? And she says, the cancer patients. I said, there's a lot of positive affirmations on here. You know, how do you think positivity affects cancer? And she says, honestly, the people that come in here with a spirit of positivity, their body reacts to the chemo more. I can't give you the scientific explanation of that, but if they have a willingness to live and a positive spirit, for some reason their treatment gets better. I don't know how those things are connected. I think it's a faith in God, and I think it's a positive spirit, and I think our body, the chemistry of it, the psychology of it, I'm not a doctor, but I believe in that. And so if you're going through these challenges and, man, you've made mistakes or you've lost everything, it's not final. And if other people say that, hey, you know what? Man, you're just this and you're just that and you're never going to be somebody. You're never going to make it. Man, you're a failure. You know, that has nothing to do with who you can be. They could be wrong and you got to not listen to it, because there's been a lot of times that growing this business, growing in life, going through life, people have said things about me, and it's my job that I'm going to prove them right or I'm going to prove them wrong. And I prove people wrong. I prove people wrong, and it's your job to prove people wrong. So maybe they're right, and it's your job to prove them wrong. Or maybe what they're saying about you has nothing to do with that, nothing to do with you. They don't understand the situation. They're outside looking in. They don't know the details of it. It's not their opinion. There's this great quote that says the highest form of maturity is being independent of other people's opinions of you. And so you gotta know who you are. At your core, in your spirit, in your heart, who are you? And if there's two versions of you, your job in life is to bring these two people together, that who you are in your house, who you are with friends, who you are in the public, that it's all the same version. And that you're proud of who you are, that you're excited about who you are. Because when you believe in you, you can do anything that you want that's within your physical capabilities when you believe in you. And so I've been the person, I want to share that with you. I don't like sharing a lot of things that are private. We live in a culture that doesn't like to do this. I don't want to tell you that I failed. Man, I just, Instagram, social media, everything's how good I am and how happy we are. You don't see those moments of being bankrupt. You don't see those moments of separation. You don't see those moments of heartbreak. You don't see those moments of financial struggle. You don't see those moments of fear. You don't see those moments of loneliness. Nobody markets that. Nobody talks about it. And I went to a men's meeting, and I remember these guys are sharing at this church. I'm saying, man, if it wasn't for this environment of vulnerability, not one person in that room would be willing to share that with other people, because there's shame and there's guilt. And the adversary, loves to keep that shame present in your life, loves to keep the guilt present in your life so that you don't go share it with anybody else. Because in sharing the challenges, in talking to other people, in getting around positive people, the right person that's going to encourage you, not that's going to give you the message that you want to hear, but the one that you need to hear. Somebody has a life that you want to live. In that, if you're able to find those relationships, those people, and if you can, which I believe they're out there, you got to look for them. It's not easy. You also got to be somebody that's worthy of that relationship and really give your heart and keep your word and really want to get better. But if you can find those people and you find this environment where you can be vulnerable and share, man, that's how unity, that's how God works. God speaks through people. And maybe your story that you're going through today, He's going to speak through you one day so that you can go encourage somebody else. I hope this encouraged you. And just remember, you're not what you have done. You are not the things you have. And you are not what other people say about you. You are who you want to be. Take care, guys.